Hey everyone, before we start off this new episode of the Domestique Cycling Podcast, I would like to invite you to the Domestique Social Ride. What is a Domestique Social Ride? Well, it's a social ride that takes place on August 20th in Belgium. If you'd like to attend, you can find the pre-registration form in the description below. We will ride 80 kilometers around the stunning scenery of the Flemish Ardennes, the scenery of the Ronde van Vlaanderen. So if you want to be there, go fill in the form and we'll see you there. Now, enjoy this latest episode of the Domestique Cycling Podcast.
Did UAE Team Emirates win the mental game during the opening weekend of Tour de France?
Yes.
Will Julian Alaphilippe be able to win a stage this Tour de France?
No.
Did Wout van Aert surprise you on Col de Pic during the first stage?
No.
Should Jonas Vingegaard have worked for Wout van Aert in the final kilometers of stage 2?
Yes.
I've got the spores, the sickness. There's the twins in my brain.
After numerous previews and a countless amount of podcasts, Tour de France 2023 finally started. The opening stage in and around Bilbao brought us the fireworks we expected, culminating in a battle between the two Yates brothers. The bromance doesn't get any better. On day 2, Victor Lafay finished a successful solo. It's time for the first conclusions after the Tour de France opening weekend. Richard Carapaz and Enric Mas abandoned La Grande Boucle already on the first day. Today, I can only count on one domestique in this podcast episode. Welcome, Bram.
Hey.
Bram, did you enjoy the first two stages of this tour?
Yeah, I mean, the tour's here. How can you not enjoy it? It's a very atypical opening weekend for a Grand Tour and definitely for the Tour de France, with some, like very hilly stages, and having very unexpected results as well in both stages.
Was the start in the Basque Country a success for you?
Oh, I think so. Also, just for cycling, the huge amount of fans on the side of the road. Of course, that's why they go to the Basque Country. That's why last year they went to Denmark. Huge amount of fans. You can definitely just see the passion, but also the terrain. Really lent itself to some really hard and interesting racing.
Exactly. It's a region that really breeds cycling. All right. Let's start with the review of stage 1, the stage in and around Bilbao. The first breakaway of this Tour de France was Guglielmi, Calmejean, Eekhoorn, Gregaard and Ferron. But the breakaway was called already with 50 kilometers to go, which is kind of a weird start of this Tour de France.
Yeah, it's starting to become a modern thing in stage races. I'm not really a fan of it. But I thought it was also quite risky to catch a break with 50 kilometers left to go, because that leaves teams like UAE or Jumbo open to new attacks. There weren't really any on stage 1. So maybe they got lucky, or maybe they just set such a high pace that nobody wanted to attack. It was a really strong breakaway group, to be honest.
The guys in the breakaway, they probably were a little bit disappointed because it's the first breakaway, which means first polka dot jersey as well. There were some points to be divided. But in the end, the guys were caught with 50 kilometers to go, and the first polka dot jersey was in the peloton, Nelson Paulus.
Yeah, that was really unexpected. When I think it was on the first climb when Kligo went, it was that was a very impressive attack. I think he went from like 600 meters to the top of the KOM and actually held it for before Eekhoorn. It was like, calm down, guys. The tour just started, but
he wasted a lot of energy. Like you saw in the KOM sprints afterwards that he was missing some of that. And in fact, the first sprint was pretty weird because there was Calmejean as well, who already attacked with 1.5 kilometers to go to the top. Pressure was on it.
Yeah, apparently he did that at the Dauphiné as well, when he wanted to go for KM points, where he goes like from a kilometer away from the summit. It's like,
are you talking about Gregaard now or
no,
Calmejean?
Like Calmejean tried to attack first. He did the same thing in Dauphiné, but didn't learn a single thing.
As expected, the fireworks during stage 1 were to be seen on Col de Pic. First, it was compared to Mur de Huy, then it was small La Redoute. What did you think of the climb?
I think it lived up to the promise. I think the pace on the climb before it made a big difference. I think UAE really set a high pace. I think it was Bjerg that really pushed up the pace on that climb, meaning most of the fast guys were already dropped. And on the second climb, so the peak, yeah, I kind of expected a stronger Pogacar attack. Didn't really see that. We just saw a very high pace from Adam Yates.
In fact, we didn't really see a attack. It was, as you
No.
said, Adam Yates who paced really strong, and then it was only all of a sudden Pogacar, Vingegaard, and Lafay left in the wheels.
I mean, Lafay did do an attack, I think. So only Vingegaard and Pogacar could follow that, but there was no real Pogacar attack. So that seemed a little bit odd, but in the end, it kind of worked out for UAE anyway.
Did the climb show what we can expect the coming weeks on the uphill? Last year it was Jumbo-Visma who had the most riders. Now it's UAE with Yates and Pogacar. Or do you think in the high mountains that will change?
I think UAE definitely displayed strength in numbers, and Jumbo showed a little bit of weakness in the first opening stages. I think it's also shown that, there was a lot of talk before, like, oh yeah, it's not just the big two. There's other riders in this race as well that can contend for this. I think after 2 stages, we already have to say, no, this is probably going to be a 2-horse race, as a lot of people also predicted. But yeah, there's a lot of people who are already out for a possible podium. That in our preview podcast, we said, yeah, they're podium contenders. I think we've already said goodbye to 3 or 4 of them for that chance.
Exactly. Carapaz and Mas, they crashed out of the race. There was also Torsten Trein who crashed, had a small fracture in his elbow, I think, but he continued the race. The fact that Carapaz and Mas aren't there anymore, that gives new roles to Nelson Paulus and Matteo Jorgensen, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to make those young guys a lot more interesting to follow, especially with Jorgensen. Although I think he already lost some time on purpose.
Before the race, he said that he was going to work 100% for Enric Mas, but the guy is now gone. So stage 2, he lost some time, Jorgensen, and that was on purpose, I think. So now he really wants to focus on some stages, and I think he might be able to get close to one.
I mean, just judging from what we saw early in the season and at the classics as well, he's an incredibly strong rider. I think if he goes into a break, he has what it takes to win a stage. Like there's a couple more like that, of course, but it's clear that he's not trying to like sneak his way into a top 10 GC by like following. No, he has other goals.
Back to the top of Col de Pic. Were you surprised by Simon Yates?
No, I think Simon Yates is one of those riders that when he's on form, he is one of the best in the world. And just those types of climbs in the Basque Country, they're perfect for him. He's always very good at Classica San Sebastian. So even Dieter played him in our Domestique picks group. So it's not really a surprise that he was there. And I just love seeing the 2 brothers race against each other. That's just a really cool aspect of this race.
Totally. Before the race, we knew Pogacar and Vingegaard were the main favorites. But did you learn something on Col de Pic of the other GC guys for place 3 on the podium then?
I think we just lost a lot of contenders. I think an O'Connor is already at over a minute.
He lost time twice in the 2 stages.
So that's clear. Like, no, that's not happening. Gaudu was all right on stage 1, I think. I don't know where. So he's clearly showing like, okay, he can actually be competitive after a very weak Dauphiné. So yeah, he hasn't lost too much time either. I think in the second stage he didn't lose any time.
Hindley was good as well. He was there too, I think. And
yeah,
maybe a guy which we had some doubts about before the race started, Carlos Rodriguez.
I actually don't know what happened to Carlos Rodriguez.
As far as I know, he was in the group that sprinted for place 3.
Okay, yeah, then that's pretty impressive of him. I think that makes him Ineos's GC guy, because Bernal lost some time on the first day, didn't lose any time on the second.
In stage 2, exactly, he was in the front group together with Rodriguez again, and I think Pidcock was there as well, who sprinted to place 4, I think.
It was 4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Was it the opening stage you expected?
Yeah, kind of. Like it was. There was always a debate: is it going to be a GC fight? Is it going to be the punchers that can survive? A lot of people were saying that Van der Poel could survive it. I think in the betting odds he was still very high up, but quickly became clear that wasn't going to happen. Van Aert, I think it was actually too hard for Van Aert as well.
But the guy, yeah, he's back at it again.
Oh, he loves his second places or his podium places, especially in stage 2. But yeah, he's on his Tour de France form, and he just is here to win stages. I just feel a little bit bad for him after what happened at stage 2.
Yeah, stage 2 was bad, but it already started in stage 1. After the race, I heard some voices in Belgian media that said, yeah, why didn't Vingegaard helped Wout? Because Koes and Kelderman, they couldn't close the gap on the Yates brothers. That might have been the moment for Jonas to step in. Do you agree on that? Maybe just a small answer. We'll get back to it after stage 2.
In stage 1, no, I don't think Vingegaard should have chased. Clearly, Wout was already far more fatigued than he probably would have lost that sprint because it was an uphill sprint, and then you would have given the yellow jersey to Pogacar already.
That's true. One name we need to talk about during stage 1 is Julian Alaphilippe. Yeah, he wasn't good at all, actually.
No, it's a bit of a shame to see Alaphilippe like this. If it was like 4 or 5 years ago, he would be unbeatable in something like this. But especially like also getting away in the descents, we haven't seen Alaphilippe really be able to even compete in these 2 stages. In stage 1, I think he was dropped very early.
Way too early.
Yeah. So I don't think he's even close to be competitive at stages where he's meant to be competitive. I think we're going to have to see an Alaphilippe that goes for the breakaway wins. And that's kind of a shame because that's not the Alaphilippe that most of us remember.
And yeah, even those breakaway wins, with what I've seen so far, it might get difficult to get a stage win, I think.
Yeah, your questions at the start of the episode already had me thinking about it, and yeah, I don't think he's going to win anything this year. He'll have to be very lucky. Last couple of years, well, not the last 2 years, but the years before that, you would have thought, of course, Alaphilippe's going to win a stage. It's a Tour. He's a very talented rider. He's very strong. So, of course, he's going to win a stage. But this year, I don't see him do anything with his form.
Let's move over to stage 2. In the breakaway, the polka dots of Nilsen Paulus.
Yeah.
Did you expect that?
No, to be honest, I didn't. He clearly has polka dot jersey as a strong goal. He's going at it quite hard from the first week already. If that's his goal to do that all 3 weeks, I'm curious what he'll do in week 3.
Yeah, but he gets a few days of rest now, I think. But do you think he can be a big contender to get a final polka dot jersey?
Oh yeah, I think so. He has the the strength to do it. Also a very versatile rider who I think doesn't have too many problems getting into breakaways. He has that power level to do that. I'm just a little bit like he needs to race a little bit smarter. In stage 2, we saw him after the penultimate climb. He picked up the last point there and then kept pushing and tried to get the points on the Yes-Cabel as well.
Exactly.
But I think he should have realized much earlier that just wasn't going to happen and just sat up, because he tried to stay in front of the peloton the whole time. That's just wasted effort.
It was UAE Team Emirates who controlled the peloton on stage 2. Was that a smart move, in your opinion, to control the whole day?
No, but I also don't know if they had a choice. I think Jumbo was playing it kind of tactically smarter because they just never sent anyone to the front. And of course, the gap was 5 minutes at some point. So someone had to do it, and UAE just sort of self-sacrificed.
What was the goal of doing that? Getting the bonification seconds on top of Jais-Cabel?
I think so. Of course, with the 8 seconds of bonifications up there, that's perfect for Pogacar. I don't know if they also wanted to go for the stage win. I kind of doubt it, but who knows?
It wasn't all fun for the team today, because Matteo Trentin, he crashed. And yeah, I heard in Belgian media that he was far behind. He was hit on his shoulder, I think. I don't know what the problem was. But yeah, hopefully he's okay, because I think as a road captain, he has quite an important role in the team.
Yeah, you could already see that role today during the chase. He was always the guy coming to the rider in front, sort of telling them knock off the pace or whatever. I think today there was a lot of him telling the guys at the front to knock off the pace because they were going too fast.
He was kind of the Diaz on the bike.
Yeah, definitely. But that's exactly what a road captain should do. So he was just doing his job. And I actually think that perhaps he might have been a little bit frustrated afterwards, because I don't want to put the blame on UAE, but I think the crash of Trentin was kind of the fault of UAE. It was on a roundabout. They were setting the pace, and I think Trentin sort of slid out on it. So he might have overcooked that corner. So I think he was just a little bit frustrated and was like, yeah, sort it out, figure it out. I'll just write in.
Trentin wasn't the only one who crashed today. Maxime van Gils, he was amongst the riders on the ground as well after his saddle broke, I guess. He took O'Connor and Jasper de Beust with him, and Jasper de Beust was the last rider to finish today. He finished, I think, at 21 minutes of the winner. That might be a problem for the sprint train of Caleb Ewan.
Yeah, definitely looking in the next week where there's a couple of sprinting chances. Having your lead out guy suffer is not going to help. As well, in the first couple of stages that are sprinting opportunities, there are climbs, so it's kind of going to be interesting to see if the best is going to hang on to the peloton or not. If not, then I think it's going to be a very easy decision to take him out of the race. But let's see what happens. It's definitely not an ideal situation for Ewan, who is kind of followed by bad luck.
Back to Jais-Cabel. Pogacar takes the bonification seconds on top. Do you consider them as important seconds?
Those specifically, no. But the repeated taking of bonification seconds is going to start adding up. At the end of stage 2, Pogacar takes more seconds. And right now, I think Pogacar is leading Vingegaard with 11 seconds already. After 2 stages, that's quite a bit. Of course,
Vingegaard, he says that the Tour de France won't be won on bonification seconds. Do you agree with that?
I don't think it's going to be won on them, but it really determines the the scenario of the race where by Pogacar taking these early bonifications, he's going to be in the yellow jersey the first time, so he gets to ride defensively, where Vingegaard is going to be required to ride in an attacking way. That's the benefit that those bonifications really give Pogacar.
Tadej was once again playing on top of Jayski Bell. You think those bonification seconds are in the pocket? It's time for an easy descent now. But it's Tadej Pogacar. He attacks. Jonas Vingegaard, he didn't want to cooperate. He said, I got Wout behind me. I'm not taking turns. And that is where the Jumbo-Visma saga starts.
Yeah, I think it was the right call for Vingegaard to do that. If Vingegaard goes to the line with Pogacar, Pogacar wins. Easy as that. Then he loses 2 more bonification seconds. Right now, having them sprint and potentially Wout taking the win and taking away the biggest bonification seconds. I think no matter the scenario today, Pogacar will take bonification seconds on a stage like this. Whether it's sprinting for the win or sprinting for third place, he was going to take bonification seconds today. Vingegaard not wanting to work with him was the right move.
Okay. Next part of the story is Peyo Bilbao, who attacked in the descent. I think Jumbo had Benoot in there, Vingegaard was there, Kelderman was there, but yet it was Van Aert who was in front of the group, and he chased Bilbao in the descent. Smart move or not?
When I saw that, I was like, what are you doing?
Right. That was the moment you send in the group chat. Wout van Aert tactics at it again, or something like that, I think.
I didn't understand it at all. Like, I'm guessing he's just the most technical rider of that group of jumbo riders, so he is the most qualified to chase in a downhill. But if the goal of today was to end in a sprint, which what it kind of sounds like by Jonas not working with Pogacar, that was the goal, then it becomes very odd that Wout has to go and chase that gap down. And in the end, like, he even has to sprint it down. He did eventually get some help when it started flattening out, where Benoot came to the front to help out.
But looking back at it now in that descent, was it smart or not? What do you think?
I don't think anyone else. Well, I don't know if anyone else would have tried to do it. I don't think anyone from Jumbo would be able to do it. So you would have to rely on other teams.
Exactly. The fact that Van Aert was at the front of the group in that descent, his other teammates were a little further behind. I think it was the right move to chase Bilbao, who has a good descent, to make sure the gap was not growing.
Yeah, but still, you're at that point the stage favorite, Van Aert was, and you have to close down that move, which is a big effort, because Bilbao was giving it everything he had.
For me personally, the problems really start on the flatter section. Bilbao was still in front. I think it was Benoot and Kelderman who chased him down.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was Schelmose who tried to attack. Luckily, his attack wasn't that strong, but
I think Pidcock went first.
Pidcock went too, right? Exactly.
And Schelmose and Buchmann. So there was a series of attacks. Yeah.
Wout van Aert brought back one of those guys as well. But when Lafay attacked around 1 kilometer to go, I think it was, maybe a little closer to the line. Yeah, Kelderman and Benoot, the guys, they were, I don't know, did they have some doubts or didn't they have the legs? But the problem is they should have put in a high pace to make sure no one was able to attack.
Yeah, that's where it's a very strong tactical failure. I think actually Wout closed down all 3 of those moves. He initially attacked, responded to them at least. But I think Benoot was just done. I think he had nothing left in him. He was at the back of the
Kelderman.
group. Yeah, Kelderman at the last attack with Lafay did move up to. Well, he was at the front. He was riding on the front, but was not able to move over to try and close it. That at that point you have to be a Calderman and say, I can't do this. I don't have any anymore, and then someone else needs to come to the front and do it.
That feeling, being Wout van Aert, that must be so frustrating. Like the last couple of years, he did work 500% for the team whenever that was needed. Now he needed his teammates to step up their game for once, doing 500% work for him, and then it fails.
Yeah, I think we have the risk of sounding too chauvinistic, too Belgian. But we did run a poll about this on Twitter to see, what our more international audience thinks, and the majority did think that.
Yeah, but that was about Jonas Vingegaard, whether he had to work for Wout or not. Personally, I don't think Vingegaard had to work for Van Aert because he's the GC leader. He needs to save energy He can't waste energy on things like that every day.
No, not every day, of course, but if you look at his biggest competitor, Pogacar, he's investing right now, and all his investments have paid out to be 11 seconds of Bonification second, whereas all of Vingegaard's efforts have not really panned out at all. So actually, maybe taking that extra 2 seconds penalty of Bonifications is going to ensure a Wout van Aert win. A Wout van Aert win is going to make him happy and more likely to work for you.
If you were DS at Jumbo-Visma, you made him work.
Yeah. There were a couple of interviews after the line with Grisha Nierman and Frank Maas. I don't know his first name.
Frans Maassen, I think.
Frans Maassen, yeah. Sorry about that. It's basically they took the blame onto themselves, saying, we did what thought was right. And there was an interview as well with Vingegaard saying, I did what I worked for Van Aert by not riding with Pogacar. It's just a little bit frustrating for Van Aert, of course, who has proven to give a lot for his team, giving away Gent-Wevelgem earlier this year. Of course, it's to one rider, but it just sort of goes to show he gives to his team. And of course, last year Vingegaard gave away the time trial to Van Aert, so there's definitely a relationship where they want to give stuff to each other. But today it didn't work out, and it was very obvious.
Do you think what happened today will cause a change of mindset, being Wout van Aert?
I think so. I think it says a lot that he didn't want to talk to the press afterwards. I think he was afraid of saying something that he shouldn't.
So if Vingegaard needs him, you think he won't do the same as he did last year and going all in? Now he'll have the thought, I need to go to Glasgow. I might help you, but not the same way I did it the last couple of years.
Of course, it's a difficult situation for Van Aert. There's a lot more stages in this race that he can win. So he's going to need his team for those as well. So if, for example, tomorrow Vingegaard has a flat tire and Wout needs to help close down the gap, of course he's still going to do that. In the mountains, maybe Van Aert will end his turn a minute earlier because he feels like, this is enough. But of course, that's complete speculation. It's just, I would feel a little bit of a grudge if I was him.
To be continued.
Yeah.
Kudos to the winner, Victor Lafay. He didn't steal it. He might be the surprise of the weekend.
Yeah. As for the people who didn't want to talk about Cofidis in the preview episode, I will apologize to the Cofidis team. Sorry, guys. You guys clearly showed that you have a stage winner among your ranks for the first time in many, many years.
Yeah, since 2008, Sylvain Chavanel, La Machine, he was the last one to win a stage for Cofidis.
Yeah, That's crazy. And of course, Lafay, we all knew that he has insane numbers, but he trains wrong. That's what Dieter keeps telling us. So yeah, just in stage 1 already, you saw Lafay attack and only Pogacar and Vingegaard being able to follow. I didn't expect that at all. I thought Lafay was gonna ride a very mediocre tour. He's clearly not here to ride a very mediocre tour. He's already won a stage. I didn't expect that at all.
It's all good for the team now.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think their tour is a success already. If you win a stage for the first time in 15 years, it's amazing.
But is there anything else you would like to add to this short review of the first 2 stages?
I think it'd be interesting to look at what we've learned already about the sprinters. Of course,
the intermediate sprints.
Yeah, exactly. But also when they get dropped on hills. I think the intermediate sprints have been very interesting. Stage 2, we saw a very strong Welsford.
Exactly, and Pito Sagan.
Yeah,
he's in there as well.
He clearly still has some goals for the green jersey.
And apparently he said an 8th green jersey isn't impossible.
I disagree with him, but it's beautiful that he still wants to go for it. There's been a lot of questions about his motivations in the past couple of weeks, and definitely in the last week after that legal case came out about his drunk driving in Monaco. But yeah, it's cool seeing him contend. But I think we've definitely just kind of been confirmed that Philipsen is probably this fastest sprinter here.
There was a moment where Mats Pedersen tried to go into the breakaway today, and Philipsen was immediately on his wheel. So yeah, those 2 guys might be the protagonists of the green fight, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting seeing how far Philipsen can go into the mountains, and if he can go into breakaways, pick up the intermediates there, because that's always been where Pedersen has a big advantage, because he seems to have no problems with that. Sort of the Thor Hushovd model of sprinting.
I think Philipsen finished today around 50th place in stage 2, so yeah, that shows the legs are there. Another surprising name that was in the fight at the intermediate sprints was Brian Cocard.
Yeah, he's sort of always flying under the radar, of course. But yeah, I'm not expecting a stage win from him or anything. I think he can land the top 5 in one of the stages. But I think was it in the first stage?
I think he was twice in there, but he didn't take a lot of points.
Okay.
If I recall correctly.
In stage 1, I was listening to GCN when they said, when Robbie McEwen was saying, oh, those intermediates, just like to open up the legs a little bit, see, how quick the other guys are, to just get a feel for the sprinting. So I wouldn't take too many conclusions from the results, but I think the intent that they're showing is clear. For example, it was Van Aert not at all trying to contend, living up to his promise of not wanting to do it. But yeah.
I'm curious to hear your opinion about the first stages of Biniam Girmay.
To be honest, I've been quite disappointed by them.
Me too.
In the intermediate sprint, he didn't have it. Yeah, he had a full lead-out train, I think, in stage 1. He had 3 or 4 in front of him to lead him out, and he got swamped by faster trains. And then it should technically, we often compare Girmay with Van der Poel and Van Aert in his skill set, being able to get over hills and sprint for the win. It became very clear that wasn't happening in this opening weekend, dropping very early in both stages. So I'm not very impressed right now, but of course that can change very quick with a very strong performance.
One more rider we need to talk about, Mathieu van der Poel, the Flying Dutchman. I think he's racing with his brains so far.
Yeah, I agree. I think today would have been a stage where he could have won, but it would have taken a lot of energy out of him.
The pace on Jaiskibel was pretty high, and I think he felt at the beginning of the climb, yeah, this might get too hard for me. I won't go over the limit. I'll take it easy, and I'll pick another stage.
Yeah, I think he is if we compare him to Wout van Aert a lot. When it comes to smart racing, he definitely knows when to conserve his energy a lot better, so he can just peak for the stage that he wants to win. Whereas Wout van Aert is going to build up fatigue every stage, which is going to make it more difficult for him.
The fact that Van Aert was there for place 2 today showed he had the legs to win. He didn't have the legs to win on stage 1, I think, as you already mentioned before.
Yeah, I don't think he had the legs to win there, especially on the uphill sprint. Against Pogacar. I think Pogacar would have won that.
But what about Mathieu van der Poel? One conclusion: he's racing smart. I read some articles in which people were already doubting him, but don't do that. He'll be back for sure.
Yeah. I definitely don't want to underestimate him. He's got his goals a little bit further down the tour, where there's a couple more stages that suit him perfectly.
Exactly. Bram, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, I actually have to look up my text. Didn't have it ready. Well, that's a wrap for today's Domestique Cycling Podcast. A big thank you to our audience for tuning in. If you enjoyed the podcast, please consider subscribing on Twitter or supporting us on Ko-Fi. And if you're on YouTube, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.
A bientôt.
A bientôt.
I've got the spores, the sickness. There's the twins in my brain.